Welcome back to the Natural Balance Hoof Care Corner. If you remember from last week, we started working on a horse with some navicular issues and was primarily lame when going to his right. We will pick right back up with the hoof distortion evaluation and trimming of the feet.
Now if you notice the difference between this foot and the other one, we're going to redraw our lines here again, just so we can stay up to speed here. There's the apex of the frog, an inch approximately where these bars terminate is where that, and you look closely and you'll see this arc right around here is just right at that spot. This frog in this foot is much smaller, much shorter than it was in the other foot. There's the end of the heel, there's the end of that heel, and I'll use the same criteria as I did before. Now this particular foot, I've actually covered up this with the rasp. I've covered up this spot, so there's actually a shorter distance here by a significant margin in the amount of caudal support. If you look at the front, it's nearly the same as it is in the other, so this foot is more out of balance than the other one. This lever out here is much greater. Now, I'm going to mark this again, being the coffin bone, approximately an inch ahead. The breakover is going to be right about there. If you recall the distance on the other side, we can go back over there. We were going to move that breakover back about 3/4 of an inch. This one at least is going to be 1.25 inches anyway. If we look at that and trim this heel with respect to this live sole, it's going to end up back here. Same basic concept as we did before, and we should maintain that same basic balance ratios. Again, we're going to adjust the level of the sole with the hoof wall by merely just taking that hoof wall down to the level there. We have a nice big full sole callus here, which is real nice. I'm just going to clean this around here. Make a mark there. And we'll start trimming, leaving the trailing part of my nipper out of the cut. Mind you, because I'm following the level of the sole, I'm taking less off this side than I am that side, so that this gap right through there is going to be equal on both sides. Now I've got that done, I'll come back and I'll trim the front part. And you can see the two portions that I've trimmed. This was off of the heel, this is off the toe. Okay, over twice the amount. But I'm basically equal all the way around now. And I'll go ahead and level that up. Before, if you recall, the rasp covered up the marks that I'd made on the heels. Now, simply by trimming that heel, has increased this distance by a greater margin than it did on the other foot, which is what needed to happen on this foot. And it also brought this toe back even farther. So just simply following the sole has helped with the adjustments of the forces around this coffin bone. This is one of the scenarios that is plagued almost every farrier that I know, simply by the demands that are placed on farriers, and a lot of it is how we were taught, simply because we were taught that each foot should look the same. You put the same hoof gauge reading on each foot, and it's because of that concept is how this foot tends to fail and that one doesn't. The guidelines that we are going to follow might suit that foot pretty nicely, but if we try to make this foot the same as that one, this one is going to have a bigger failure factor. Simply letting this heel grow makes it grow forward, shortening this distance and increasing this distance. Because this foot is naturally more upright, it has, and it's a different shape, it's a totally different foot. Trying to make them the same is the very thing that happens to so many of these horses. And it usually shows up later in life. the harder they're used, the more these stresses, in particular the medial lateral indifferences, not sighting down the foot to try to see where that coffin bone is and to try to see its relationship to the ground is rather frugal if you look at it from a common sense perspective. And if you look at it from a simple, basic perspective, you'll know that if this horse didn't have shoes on, and if he had an environment that was natural to him and was able to wear his feet the way that he wanted to or needed to, he would wear this hoof wall down to the level of the sole equally all the way around, and that's the way his foot would be kept. So it's just basically following Mother Nature's guidelines is all we're really doing here. And the fact is that the front of the foot is always worn. The evidence of that is shown in every shoe that we pull off. And so that realizing those simple basic things and employing those into every horse's foot helps to keep these horses sound. That's kind of what natural balance is all about. It's just using simple basic guidelines. This is one of the subtle things that is oftentimes overlooked, and if you notice, this part of the foot right here is really the direction this foot wants to grow. And if you notice that by the x-rays that we had, this toe is extremely long. We saw that by drawing the line across the foot and just mapping it out. This is a big reason why that happens, is that the distortion is not recognized from this perspective, and then we lose track of it by simply following this with a shoe and putting a shoe clear out here only exacerbates the situation and increases this distortion problem. So we're going to eliminate part of this. You can see a prominent ring right there, and we're going to just dress this wall down until we can get rid of the majority of that. We have some limitations that we aren't going to go all the way back into the sole. We'll go at least halfway through the wall until this area is fairly straight. Now you see, actually, once we've eliminated some of that distortion off the front of this foot, engaged the frog, we've actually got a better pastern alignment than we did originally, even after taking over twice as much heel off. We've trimmed his foot down to the level of the sole, and if you can remember, we've lowered both heels to the level of the sole, and it doesn't appear to have changed his angle at all, which is really consistent with this type of trimming. And what we're looking for now is to see if he can get to the ground in a heel first perspective. And it looks like he's walking very much the same, if not better, actually, because he's able to get his frog in contact with the ground. And so he's landing basically pretty flat, not that much different than he was before. So this is one of the things that we look at. What are we going to put on him? We want him to land heel first. We know that bringing his breakover back to the position that we've drawn on the foot is going to be helpful to get his foot on the ground heel first. But I think for now we're going to put a wedge, natural balance wedge pad on him in pressure material so that we can start stimulating his foot a little bit better. And then I believe he should get to the heel first engagement into the ground.
That's all the time we have for this week. Please join us next week as we finish up the shoeing application on this horse. If you have any questions about anything you've seen on the show, please call us at 719-372-7463. Thank you.
HoofJack is the ultimate hoof support system for the horse owner, veterinarian, or farrier. The horse owner will be surprised how comfortable it can be for you and your horse during all aspects of hoof maintenance, whether it be cleaning feet, installing and removing studs, or applying hoof polish or dressings. The veterinarian's job is made easier when pulling shoes, lameness evaluations, bandaging, and minor surgeries. Add an available pole extension for dentals and facial surgeries. The professional farrier and trimmer will find the HoofJack a back saver for all trimming and shoeing tasks on the front as well as the hind feet. Please contact Equine Innovations today to have comfort for your horse and ease for your body.